just have to say, Dr. Elizabeth Ambe is my big sister. For those aunties and uncles in the room who have the opportunity to mentor someone along the way, I want to encourage you to do that. Auntie Liz has encouraged me and mentored me. I'm also a faculty member somewhere else, but if UMass Lowell wants me and you're hiring, I'm available. Anytime she had a presentation or a paper to write, she has invited me to collaborate with her. For the young people, when someone invites you to do something, take that opportunity. You never know where it can take you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you and to present to some my big sister, Dr. Elizabeth Ambe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Sharon Okoro. Knowing you is quite a pleasure. You've been an inspiration to me too, even though you're my little sister. We met in Massachusetts. We both came from the South, and I didn't plan to say this, but I'm going to say it. When we just came here, we were having a really difficult time adjusting to the New England weather. And we used to sit together and gripe and say, oh my goodness, this New England with their Dunkin' Donuts and their Red Sox. And their snow is so brutal. Like, we're used to it now, right? More than a decade, and we love it. Right? Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Ambe, and it's such a privilege for me to say a little thing to you this evening. I'm not going to call it a keynote speech or address, because I was just telling the ED of the school where I belong to the charter board that I don't know what I'm going to say. Hi, Nick. So I hope you'll be rooting for me and encouraging me not to stumble and fall, all right? So, but anyway, when Gordon approached me and told me to say something, I just was so excited, and I said, yes, I'm gonna say something at this event. It's such a privilege. And then when I went and thought about it, I started feeling a little anxious. And I started asking myself, what am I gonna say? I really didn't know what to say, so I went back to Gordon and I said, Gordon, what do you want me to talk about? And he's like, what? You said yes without knowing what you were going to talk about? I said, yeah. He said, okay, talk about multiculturalism. I'm like, yes, I can talk about that. I live multiculturalism. I breathe it. I enjoy it. I even teach it at UMass Lowell. So I'm going to talk about that because that's something I know about. And then, when I sat down and I started thinking about the audience, a mixed audience from all walks of life, all nationalities, the whole universe in one place, I got really nervous again. And then I went back to Gordon. And I said, Gordon, what exactly about multiculturalism do you want me to say? Gordon must have been going, oh man, what's wrong with this woman, you know? And he said, well, just talk about multicultural. I said, I need a focus. And about 2 or 3 days ago, I said, you need to call me now, because I don't have a speech. And he called me and we spoke, and he said, I need you to focus on the African community, to challenge and to encourage them at the same time. Right? That's what Gordon said to me. He's so busy, and so I can just lie anything here, he wouldn't know. Yeah. But anyway, that's going to be the focus of my speech tonight. I actually wrote it down because it wasn't short notice, but I prepared it late. So I'm going to be reading from my paper, and the theme of my message today, to you Africans, and to everybody else that is here tonight, because this message is applicable to everybody, is to stand up as a community and be counted in your community. The theme of the message, again, is to stand up in your community and be counted as a member of your community. Now, Africans have the unique advantage and privilege of having multiple communities in which they can be counted and in which they belong. We are here in the US. We came from Africa. Many of us went through many continents before we got here to the US. And we must never lose sight of the fact that this is a unique privilege. Because there are many people who are sitting in this room right now who were born in a certain locality, who grew up in that locality, whose parents were born there, grandparents, great-grandparents were born in the same place, and who would all die there. And they've not known any place else. There is nothing wrong with that. There is a certain kind of security in stability. So I don't say that to condemn or minimize in any way people who have not traveled out of their community. But it is a privilege for you to come all the way from another continent and make your home in another one. So, we have this privilege also, which is being celebrated among us today, the 3rd anniversary of the African Community Center. And we have a responsibility to stand up and make our impact felt, not only within the African Community Center, but in our small neighborhoods as well. We have to grow that center. We have to nourish that center with the richness that comes from Africa. And we have to use that center to bring Africa to the people right here in Lower Massachusetts. Incidentally, that's what Congresswoman Laurie Trahan said when she was unveiling the book. She said, "Gordon, I'm so happy because you brought Africa to me." And that really resonated with me, because that is something that I raised in my speech, that we have a responsibility to bring Africa to people who may never go there. When the MC asked, how many of you have gone to Africa? I would have liked to see a show of hands. How many of you who are not Africans have been to Africa? Please oblige me by a show of hands. Great. Thank you very much. Congratulations. There are many other people. How many of you would like to go to Africa? Raise your hand if you would like to go to Africa. Excellent. Many more. Here is the thing. It takes a lot of preparation and money to go back and forth between Africa and here. And even if you go, you might just go to one country. You may not really go to the entire continent. You've already been told that it's a vast continent, and so I'm not going to belabor the point or disrespect you by describing that again. The beauty of what we have here today is that you have everybody who comes from a part of that huge continent represented in this room today and represented in Lowell. And that is the reason why I chose to come to Lowell with my family, my husband, my dearest husband, and our kids, because of the dynamism of this city. Wonderful city with people represented from all across the world, where you could meet somebody from every country in Africa. Even though many of us now are US citizens, we'll always be Africans at heart. And I just love to walk down the streets of Lowell and to be able to peer off in a store and buy an African outfit in downtown Lowell. Isn't that amazing? It is amazing. And so I want to encourage you that you should actually not just sit in your little corner, but to make your impact felt in this community. I know that the job that Gordon is doing is a difficult job. It's not been easy. He's told me a little bit about the community, and he's faced a lot of challenges. And I want to take this opportunity for those of you who have not visited the center or who have not been going there to visit it after today. Visit the African Community Center. And when you go, Gordon will be standing right there with his big signature smile and with wide open hands to welcome you. And he's going to show you around with pride. He's going to show you all of the projects that they have achieved. And I bet you he's going to give you an assignment. Yes, Gordon will give you an assignment. I see many heads nodding. You can go there and come out without Gordon asking you to do something, because there is so much work to do. And sometimes I really feel that some of us shy away from our responsibilities and we let a few people carry the heavy weight on them. So I want to urge you again to stand up, all of us, and take advantage of this wonderful resource that we have here and be a part of that community center. Now, there are so many other places where we as Africans can also participate. I'm encouraging you to at least start with the community center, but there are so many other things that you can do in your own neighborhoods as well. Let's take advantage of those opportunities that are available to us as Africans in our various neighborhoods to grow and to spread our wings and reach out further into these communities. Yes, and I do know that it's very difficult. I know it's difficult to come to a new country as a new immigrant and to settle down. I know it is difficult to put food on your table and a roof over your head. But here is something I have to say to you. In as much as these things are important, I have news that's not very savory to break to you. You know what? When you leave this world, that job that you're doing 9 to 5, sun up till sundown, Monday through Sunday, as soon as you leave, they're going to replace you at that job, even before the sun goes down. That is a fact. But here is something that nobody can ever take away from you. The time and the resources that you have invested in people. The time, the resources, everything that you have invested in the community will leave a legacy. Yes. A legacy that will always be remembered. A legacy that lives beyond your family only. And I have something to say to you, because my pastor is here, and always when my pastor is here, I want to act as if I'm the holiest of the holiest. So when you leave this world, after having invested yourself in people and in projects and in wonderful things like we have at the African Community Center, and left this legacy behind, when you go and meet your Creator, you can proudly tell Him that, hey, Creator, oh, it might be a her. Is it a her or him? Yeah. She might be sitting on a throne, and you will say to her, excuse me, Creator, lady, I was a part of your creation while I lived here on earth. I gave of myself, I gave of my time, and I advanced the communities that you created. And this is why I'm encouraging you that you should actually spread yourself a little more beyond your immediate environment. And Gordon and I actually talked about this on the phone. He says they work too hard. They spend too much time working, and they don't spend time investing themselves in things that really matter at the end of the day. And so I wanted to say that to you. And I'm not going to make this a long speech, even though I wrote a couple of pages. But as Africans, we have that versatility of belonging to two homes at the same time. In as much as I encourage you to give of yourself in this community, I also want to encourage you not to forget where you came from. Many of us have this tendency of coming to the US or coming to the diaspora and forgetting where we came from. And you know what they say, you can never really know where you're going if you don't know where you're coming from. We have a responsibility to mother Africa. As you all know, even though it's now up for debate, Africa is the birthplace of civilization, right? Mm-hmm. What do they call it? Pangea, the birthplace of civilization, where all nations came from. That is Africa. And yet, at the same time, it is still referred to as the third world. Isn't that ironical that the place that gave birth to every other place on this earth has been forgotten? We cannot afford to neglect Africa. We can't. As Africans in the US, we are like children who grew up in a family with two parents. Now, the divorce rate in the US and in the world right now is about 50%. And so, if you grew up in a family with two parents, you probably took for granted, right, that you had two parents. But there are many kids who don't have that. And I really want to use that imagery here today. When you have two parents, you cannot afford to take care of one and neglect the other. Yeah. We have a responsibility to Africa. And I'm going to leave you with a little story. I don't believe in just saying words. I'm not a theoretical person. We may do all of the research and everything, but at the end of the day, we bring it into the classroom and we implement it practically. And I want to tell you a story. I love to read. In fact, I cannot do math. I am so mathematically challenged that it's disgraceful to talk about it, but I tell people anyway. I love to read right from the time when I was a little child. I grew up in a village in Cameroon where there were no libraries. I had never seen a library in my entire life. And then, at the age of about 10 and 11, my parents managed with their little resources and sent me to a boarding school that was run by Irish Reverend Sisters, a Catholic boarding school. The first year at the school, the first week, they all put us in a line and took us to a building. And they opened the door of that building. And I looked, and I saw books from wall to wall. So many books in one place. It blew my mind. I was just completely, I don't know, I can't describe the feeling. I was so excited. And then they told us you can check out one book only. And I used to check out my one book. And I used to go into the classroom. As the math teacher was teaching, my book was under the desk and I was reading. The science teacher was teaching, my book was under the desk and I was reading. And when the teacher caught me and asked me, put me on time out, I was like, yay! Now I get to read my entire book. We used to sleep with bush lamps. At night, I would get into my blanket and I would put my bush lamp and I'll be reading my book under that blanket with that little lamp at the risk of burning down the dormitory, right? But I did it anyway. I couldn't put down the book. And by the end of the week, I would have finished my one book and I'll just be waiting for that library day. And yet when I grew up and I came to the US, I heard this myth that Africans don't like to read. And I said to myself, boy, I'm an African and I love to read. Is there something wrong with me? Am I an oddball? I thought about it. And I said, anyway, I don't know. Maybe some people just don't like to read, but I know I love to read. And so every summer when I went to Cameroon, I saw the children during the summer holidays just roaming around, doing nothing and just not having something to do, getting into trouble. And then one year, when I was sending a container, my family was sending a container to Africa. Those of you who are Africans can relate to that, right? We send those containers to Africa. I went through the hallways, and all the books that my colleagues had discarded, I picked them up and put them in boxes. I came to the local library, and you know how they put out free books? I collected those free books. I put them in boxes, and I put it in my shipment, and I shipped them to Africa. And that summer when I went to Cameroon, I called my nieces, my cousins, everybody that I knew, and I said, come on to my living room and let's read. And they came, and we read, and it was beautiful. And I went to the church. See, we don't have newspapers and announcements like that. I went to the church, and I told the preacher, I said to the preacher, I need you to announce in church that kids can come to my place and read. And he says, do you have many books for kids? I'm like, yes. So he announced in church. And on Sundays after church, the kids will come, we will sit on my living room, on my dirt floor. I will popcorn. We will sing, we will read books. We will sing nursery rhymes. We will dance. It was beautiful. But here is something. What I saw among those children was fascinating. When they grabbed a book, they couldn't put it down. So I said to my little niece, I'm going to make you my librarian. I bought a big ledger. I said, when the kids come next Sunday, you're going to write down their names and they will check out three books each. And they will go home and they will read the books and they will bring the books back the following Sunday. And the kids started doing that. And they'll go home and they'll read the 3 books. And some of them wanted to take more books. I said, no, you can exchange your books. Then the parents started coming to me. And they will say, something miraculous is happening at my house. My kids cannot take their eyes off the books. And parents will be going to the farm or to fetch water. And they will see little kids sitting at the window reading these books, head bent over a book. And they'll be returning at night. And the kids are still sitting there reading this book. And then parents will tell me their stories and I cried. You know why I cried? I had discovered a truth that had been hidden from me for a very long time. It wasn't that Africans didn't like to read, it was that they didn't have the books to read. We didn't grow up with books. Nobody modeled reading to us. And so, our parents went to the farm and when we didn't have the books, we couldn't read. And so, why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you that each and every one of us here has a passion. Find your passion. My passion is reading. I brought reading to a village in Africa. I read here. I read across America when Lower Community Charter Public School does the Dr. Seuss Day. I go to schools, I read. I want to encourage you to find your passion. If you find your passion, you realize that you have a lot to give. There is nobody here who, when determined, cannot give back to the community. And so I want to encourage you today to remember that whoever created you put a lot in you. And you were not put on this earth just to live your little life. You were put on this earth to reach out and enrich other people's lives. But here is the reality. I'm not saying this is easy. It has not been easy for God to start this. He's told me some of his challenges without exaggerating them. Are they going to be naysayers? People will discourage you? Of course. You know, no good thing comes easy. When I started my little library, the elites, people who are supposed to be educated, said to me, don't be stupid. What do you think you're doing? They're going to mess up your books. They're going to tear your books. They will even steal your books. And I said, don't worry. It's just a book. So what if they steal the books? But I'm here to tell you that not a single book got torn, not a single book got lost, and I swear to you that not a single book got stolen. People value things that come from the heart. And so, I'm gonna leave you without stretching, because I'm a talker, I'm a teacher, I can go all night. Yeah, that's what I do for a living. I'm gonna leave you with a little bit of an encouragement here. If you could just think about it and find that thing in you that you can give, and go to the African Community Center and ask God, even if it's just to put together the papers or something, he'll find something for you to do. If you could find something to do in your community, it doesn't matter how small it is. If all of us are doing little things, putting our hands together and our heads together, and above all our hearts together, we can achieve big things. We can change our communities. For little drops of water, make an ocean. And Gordon, I want to thank you. Come here, my brother. Come here. I want to thank you for your courage and your tenacity. There are some people in this community who inspire us, and you're one of them. I'd like to use this opportunity to thank the Parker Foundation, to thank us. I'd like to use this opportunity to thank CTI. I was going to remember that. Any other people you want me to thank? And everybody else who has contributed for these 3 years so that we can gather here today and celebrate the 3rd anniversary. I have confidence that with your help, with your participation, with your standing up to be counted, we are going to make the African Community Center a citadel that we will be proud of for centuries to come. So, in conclusion, I know some of you want me to sit down. In conclusion, the theme, as a reminder, the theme of my message to you is stand up in your communities and be counted within your community. Just say yes. Yes. Thank you.
Let's put your hands together one more time. When the chief police walked in, he just whispered in my ears, he said, Gordon, I just have to be here for 10 minutes. He is staying here with us. After